Isaiah, the book of Isaiah, chapter 41, begins, keep silence before me, O islands. Let the people renew their strength. Let them come near. Let them speak. Let us come near together to judgment. God is calling the people in the islands to come and discuss with him, to consider with him the situation. The word of islands is often connected to the lost 10 tribes. You had 12 tribes of Israel. 10 of these tribes separated from the other 2. They set up their own kingdom. This kingdom was conquered by the Assyrians, and all of its inhabitants were taken into exile. One way or another, they migrated, they moved. Some of them moved by way of the sea, as predicted. Others were moved overland. Eventually, they all converged to the north and the west of Europe, including the British Isles of Ireland and Britain. And in those regions of Ireland and Britain, congregated the section of the 10 tribes that pertain to the tribes of Joseph. Tribes of Joseph were Ephraim and Manasseh. And from there, they eventually gave rise to the countries of North America, Canada and the USA, and also to Australia and New Zealand and other areas. And much of what is important in the Western world emerged from them. So meanwhile, those Jews who were, in their course of their peregrinations, their wanderings around, their migrations, they had forgotten who they were, they had forgotten their ancestry. Even while they were still in the land of Israel, they'd gone after other nations, had followed the rites and the pagan practices of other peoples. They had lost much semblance of having ever been Israelites. They had almost in their own land turned into Gentiles. And from there, things got worse and they forgot their ancestry on the whole. Nevertheless, physically, they remained together, remained who they were. And prophecies in the Bible concerning them pertain to them and have been fulfilled through them. Meanwhile, the Jews, those tribes who remained, became the Jews of Judah, and they too had their destiny to fulfill. They became the holders, the bequeathers of the Jewish religion. They developed the Jewish religion, and eventually they returned to the land of Israel, and that is where they are present, in the land of Israel, and in the diaspora they are the Jews. Whereas the others are peoples in Western Europe. So you may protest that the DNA does not confirm this. Well, it does and it doesn't. But the DNA is, the DNA is determined at crucial moments of change by its geographical provenance, from the area that it emerges from. So that is another matter, but it is worth keeping in mind that there is a geographical determinant in what results in the DNA findings, together with the genealogical aspect. All events, Isaiah 41 is referring to the islands, and the islands in the Bible and biblical prophecy are frequently connected to the lost 10 tribes of Israel. There are references to this in Isaiah 24:15, Isaiah 49:6, Isaiah 69, Jeremiah 31, 9-10. The Bible describes Ephraim as his firstborn. Ephraim was one of the tribes of Joseph, of the 12 tribes of Israel. And Ephraim was a preeminent tribe amongst them. sometimes the term Ephraim refers to them all together with Ephraim as its head, and other associations refers to Ephraim, the tribe of Ephraim only. The all events the tribe of Ephraim is linked with the isles in the Bible. Jeremiah 31, 9 to 10 says, I'm a father to Israel, and Ephraim was my firstborn. I'm a father to Israel, and Ephraim is my firstborn. Hear the word of the Lord. O your nations, declare it in the islands of Pharaoh. And say, he that scattered Israel will gather him and keep him as a shepherd does his flock. Jeremiah 31, 9 to 10 says, I'm a father to Israel, and Ephraim is my firstborn. Hear the word of the Lord, O your nations, and declare it in the isles of Pharaoh, and say, he that scattered Israel will gather him and keep him as the shepherd does his flock. Also, Isaiah 49, 1 to 6 says, listen, O isles, unto me, you are my servant, O Israel, in whom I will be glorified, to bring Jacob again unto him, to raise up the tribes of Jacob, a covenant of the people, in Hebrew Brit-Am, to establish the earth, to inherit the desolate heritages, the east from the north and the west, and the east from the land of Sinim. So too Isaiah 24:15 says it refers to the name of the Lord God of Israel in the isles of the sea, in the islands of the sea. Isaiah 42:4 says the isles shall wait for his law. Isaiah 51 says, hearken to me, O my people, O my nation, my arms shall judge the people, the isles shall wait upon me. Isaiah 69, chapter 60, verse 9 says, surely the isles shall wait for me, and the ships of Tarshish first, to bring thy sons from afar. Tarshish refers to the Atlantic Ocean area. So the isles must refer here to the Isles of Britain. And this is what we have. And this is what we have. So Isaiah 41 is speaking to the islands. And this is referring to the 10 tribes of Israel. It's worth mentioning that the islands in the Bible usually means islands, areas surrounded by water. The Midrash says, Midrash Rabbah 44:3, islands are defined by the sea, surrounded by the sea. There are those who say that islands could also refer to coastlands or peninsulas. So this too may or may not be a possibility. It may also include North America in the definition. It could also include areas such as North America in the definition of islands. Because in real terms, North America is an island. It is isolated. It is mainly surrounded by oceans. Isaiah 41:12. Isaiah 41 continues. Raised up the righteous man from the east, caught him to his foot, gave the nations before him, and made him rule over kings. He gave them as a dust to his sword, as driven stubble to his bow. The Midrashim, that is commentary authored by sages of the Talmud or sages who were coeval, who lived at the same time as the sages of the Talmud on the whole, and also the Talmud itself in Sanhedrin 108b, see Rashi, said that this verse refers to Abraham. Abraham in Genesis 14. The Bible relates in Abraham in Genesis 14 how Abraham at that time was living to the west of the Jordan. Abraham at that time was living to the west of the Jordan. And Lot, his nephew, was living to the east of the Jordan. And 4 kings came down. That was before a calamity that turned much of that area into a desolate wasteland. At that time it was fertile and it was populated. And the Bible relates, and Lot was amongst his inhabitants. And the Bible relates how four kings came down, four kings from the areas to the north and the east, including the region of Persia, of modern Iran. And they came down and they attacked different principalities east of the Jordan, east of the land of Israel. And they looted the area, and they also took away captives, including Lot, the nephew of Abraham. Abraham was informed of this. He got together a band of his followers. He pursued the kings. He defeated them. He released Lot. He restored the beauty, the loot that had been taken to its rightful owners. After deducting a portion for those who had shared the pursuit with him. And this event was symbolic of future occurrences. Everything in the Bible has prophetic significance. Everything in the Bible has prophetic significance. Everything that happens in the Bible not only is of historical importance in its own right, it also has symbolic significance for its descendants. It has significance concerning the descendants and the heirs of Abraham, that is of Israel. That is the opinion of the sages of the Talmud and of the Midrashim and of their time. And the verse in the book of Isaiah continues 41:2, who raised up the righteous man from the east, called him to his foot, gave the nations before him, and made him rule over kings. He gave them as dust to his sword, and has driven stubble to his bow. This is referring to the victory of Abraham over his opponents. And this is Abraham. Said Rabbi Yoshua Saknin, the Upper Galilee. In the Midrash, God gave a sign to Abraham. Everything that happened to him would also occur to his descendants, just like Abraham gave pursuit. As it says, he gave them as dust to his sword and has driven stubble to his bow. So will the Almighty do for the descendants of Abraham, as it says in Zechariah 14:3. And the Lord shall go forth and wage war with those nations, like the day he waged war on the day of the battle. Midrash Tanchuma, Bereshit 34:10. What God did for Abraham, so too is he destined to do for the 12 tribes of Jacob. He pursued them and passed safely, even by the way they did not come with his fleet. So this is referring not only to Abraham, but his future descendants, that is the people of Israel, the Israelites. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob gave rise to the Israelite nation. Jacob inherited the blessings from Abraham. Isaac inherited the blessings from Abraham. He passed them on to Jacob, who was also called Israel. When the Bible refers to something that has prophetic significance concerning Abraham, he is also talking concerning the Israelites and not to anyone else. As it says, what God did for Abraham, so too is he destined to do for the 12 tribes of Jacob. And it says he pursued them, that is Abraham, also his descendants, and passed safely. Even by the way, they've not gone with his feet. Maybe this is a hint for the future, that the salvation performed by the descendants of Abraham, in this case, will not be done by the feet, it will be done by air, like in the present conflict with Iran, that everything is being done by aeroplanes. They are bombing aeroplanes against Iran that had the wicked designs to destroy the state of Israel and to destroy the Western nations. And And these Western nations are against the state of Israel for daring to defend itself. Some of these Western nations are against the state of Israel for daring to defend itself. Other countries can do what they like, engage in all kinds of atrocities against all kinds of people, but let the Jews just do what is normal, what is expected of them, to help themselves, to help others, and they are condemned by others and also by members of their own communities. And this is the work of the Satan. But this is the way the world goes. This is the way things play out. And this had been foreseen. Isaiah 41:4 says, who hath wrought and done it, calling the generations from the beginning. I, the Lord, the first and with the last, I am he. God foretells the future. The future is hidden in the Bible. The Bible is worth reading, even though we do not understand all of it consciously. On a higher level, it reveals to us things that later become apparent to us. God is first and last. Isaiah 41:5 says, the isles saw it and feared. The ends of the earth were afraid. Draw near and come near. Also the ends of the earth, another identification concerning the lost of tribes of Israel, that in the future they will be at the ends of the earth. They will be located, concentrated in areas that are at the extreme ends of the continental masses. The blessing to Joseph in Deuteronomy 33, verses 13 to 17. Now Joseph, he said, blessed of the Lord be his land, for the precious things of heaven, for the dew and for the deep that crashes beneath, and for the precious fruits, for the chief things of the ancient mountains, of the everlasting hills, of the earth and fullness thereof. The goodwill of him that dwelt in the bush. His glory is like the first thing of his bull. John Bull is a nickname, a recognized symbol for Great Britain. And his horns are like the horn of a unicorn, one horn. The symbol of Scotland, the lion and the unicorn, the one-horned unicorn, on the coat of arms of Britain. And Scotland is represented by the unicorn. And in this verse in the Hebrew, it indicates one horn, a one-horned beast. And this is what we find. You shall push the people together unto the ends of the earth. They're the 10,000s of Ephraim, and they're the thousands of Manasseh. Actually, this word translated as 10,000s. The thousands of Manasseh can mean much, much more. They mean 10 millions or thousands of millions, as we have explained in a commentary with the sources. Also, the end of the earth is referred to where the lost tribes would be, in the very name England was originally was in French, which was the language of England for a good while. It was known as Angleterre, meaning literally the end of the earth. Angleterre in French, end of the earth. And this is where it was prophesied that lost tribes would be. Psalm 61:2-3, from the end of the earth will I cry unto you, when my heart is overwhelmed, to lead me to the rock that is higher than I. And he said it's a light, Isaiah 49:6, and it says it's a light thing that you should be my servant, to raise up the tribes of Jacob, and to restore the preserved of Israel. Tribes of Jacob, and to restore the preserved of Israel. I will also give you for light to the Gentiles, that you may be my salvation unto the end of the earth. End of the earth is one of the signs identifying signs concerning the location of lost tribes in the end times. Isaiah 41:5, it says, the isles saw it and feared, the ends of the earth were afraid, drew near and came. They help everyone his neighbor, and everyone said his brother be of good courage. This may also be referring to the enemies of Israel, of the Jewish state. Nowadays, the Jewish state is fighting for its existence, is fighting against Iran. Existence is threatened by Turkey and by elements in Egypt and by all of the Gentile nations, almost all of the Gentile nations. Anyone who looks at the internet, who follows the news commentators, there are all kinds of commentators that are dated commentating and condemning the state of Israel for things it hasn't done or didn't come near to doing, and is doing this unjustly and not taking into account the circumstances and not realizing the state of Israel is fighting for its existence, and not condemning people, other peoples who do much worse in hundreds and thousands of situations. Out of all the problems of the earth and all the evil deeds that are done by the peoples of earth, of the world, to each other, the state of Israel is condemned more than any other. Out of all different resolutions condemning any nation, more than half of them, or it depends, almost half of them to much more than half of them, but the overwhelming majority are against the state of Israel. All kinds of nations at all different stages of development, from the most developed to the most primitive, they all get together and condemn the state of Israel for imaginary or grossly exaggerated faults that are not their fault. They're just the opposite. So that is the way the world goes. That is the situation. And this could be described here. And he goes on in 41:7, describing the cooperation between different elements. And he continues in 41:8. But you, Israel, are my servants, Jacob, whom I have chosen, the seed of Abraham, my friend. You whom I have taken from the ends of the earth, I called you from the chief men thereof. That is according to the translation here. The Hebrew actually says the chief parts of the better parts of those areas of the earth, and not only at the extremities of the earth, but have the most salubrious, the most healthy climates. And that is what we find. And I have said unto you, you are my servant, I have chosen you, and not cast you away. Areas where we find the lost in tribes include North America, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, Scandinavia, the Netherlands, and so on. And all these areas may be considered the ends of the earth, the geographical extremities. And he continues Isaiah 41:10. Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. Yea, I will help you. Yea, I will uphold you with the right hand of my righteousness. Behold, all they that were incensed, inflamed against you, shall be ashamed and confounded. They shall be as nothing. And they that strive with you shall perish. Shall seek them and shall not find them. Even them that contended with you, they that war against you shall be as nothing, and as a thing of naught. The Lord your God will hold your right hand, saying unto you, fear not, I will help you. Fear not, thou worm Jacob, and you men of Israel. That is Jacob and Israel, meaning Judah and the 10 tribes of Israel. I will help you, says the Lord, and be your Redeemer. The Holy One of Israel, the Redeemer of Israel, is God Almighty. All events, Israel, the lost 10 tribes, are part of the people of God Almighty. They are the brothers of Judah. They have a mutual destiny with Judah. And the two halves of the Israelite nation. Judah and the lost 10 tribes should recognize each other, come together and work together. And this is mentioned in prophecy. This is their task in our time. And we are seeing the potential for this to be fulfilled before our eyes today. Thank you, may the Lord God of Israel bless you.